like clock, I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols, reaming my body.
Boruto episode 180 review. Alright guys, first things first, I want to start off by saying I will most likely 100% be talking about spoilers in terms of the Boruto manga in this video right here. So if you guys don't necessarily want to be spoiled, you guys could then click off. But of course, when we talk about Mugino, we have to talk about the Boruto manga spoilers just because of the main fact that we know that Mugino is going to die in the future. And really soon in the future. So of course this episode was more of like a character building episode. Now I do want to point out this is something that's definitely uncharacteristic for the Boruto writers, to basically build up a character to pretty much rip everybody's hearts out. One of the things that they did do very well in this episode is they pretty much gave Mugino a very good guy look. Even though he's running off on the plug a little bit in terms of the restaurant tab, he was still a very good guy. And of course the Boruto writers made that obvious example of him basically donating all of his ninja money to that one kid. And of course one thing that they definitely could have done is of course had Boruto buy into the fact that he did actually give the money to the kid, and then everybody would have just gotten and understood the point that Mugino is definitely a very good guy. But no, they had Boruto kind of questioning at first. They didn't have Boruto believe it, and then at the end of the episode they actually had the kid come back, thank Mugino, talk about his sister's surgery and all the good stuff that Mugino's money gave to the kid. That right there was a lot more impactful. But as I said, all this right here is just completely futile, mainly because we understand that Mugino is going to die in the future. And in my opinion, I think it's overall a very good thing. One of the things that the series of Boruto has been criticized before in the past, as I said before, is that not a lot of good people die. Of course we did see a couple of good people die before in the past, but just not a lot of them. The flashback itself with Mugino was super interesting. It was kind of funny that Mugino got closer to killing third Hokage than Konohamaru. The grandfathers of the Naruto series, the grandfather fans out there, you guys all know that Konohamaru, ever since he was in the academy, basically tried to kill the third Hokage so he himself could potentially become the next Hokage. Of course, Konohamaru got nowhere close. Mugino on his first try literally got the closest, and the third Hokage even knew that Mugino was gonna eventually try to kill him. That right there gotta be embarrassing to the Konohamaru fans. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. The Konohamaru fans have been taking L after L after L. Like, this episode had absolutely nothing to do with Konohamaru, and somehow he still finds a way to catch another L. But that's besides the point. One of the things that it definitely did highlight was, of course, the difference in generations, especially when it comes to the flowers. The main thing that Mugino brought to get closer to the third Hokage was, of course, the batch of flowers. And of course, the kid at the end basically came and gave Mugino a batch of flowers with no strings attached. Like, he was not trying to assassinate Mugino. Now, we automatically understand that, of course, this is a different time and everything like that, but the Boruto writers still want to hammer that home because, of course, in the future, it's not going to look like that a lot, man, because in the Boruto manga, as of right now, it's looking pretty terrible. Now, I do want to point out, it's not necessarily like everybody's a very good guy in the Boruto series as of right now. One of the more popular characters that we do know, Sumire, she was pretty much a spy and a kid of a Black Ops member that caused a lot of problems in the early parts of Boruto. But regardless, right now, when we talk about the overwhelming amount of children, it's all regular. Like, they're all regular. And of course, as of right now, there's not a lot of kids that's even trying to become ninjas. Now, I do want to point out, this episode in a whole, it felt kind of filler, but I don't necessarily want to talk about it as if it's like a bad thing, mainly because they did give us a lot of background. One of the things that it obviously built was, of course, Mugino's character. When we did see Mugino in the Boruto manga, we didn't really know anything about him. All we really knew was that he was a teammate of Konohamaru, and then he died. In fact, when Mugino actually did die, it wasn't necessarily like anything too overly emotional. Of course, Konohamaru noticed it and he mentioned it, but of course, in terms of all of the Boruto fans, we didn't care. All we wanted to know about at that particular point was where was Kawaki, and at that point, there was still no little hints to basically tell it, like, hey, Kawaki is gonna come up in the future. Right now, in terms of the Boruto manga, the Boruto writers are coming out saying Kawaki is coming. We even got to see a short clip of Kawaki versus Boruto. Kawaki's in the opening, so as of right now, we're all cool, we're all calm, we're all collected, so we could definitely notice the character of Mugino potentially giving his life for a character like Konohamaru. But back then, we didn't care at all. Like, he didn't get any respect from us. All we cared about was Kawaki. And even more building to the Boruto manga, Mugino actually came out and told Boruto, like, hey, a fortune teller actually gave me a quote, and of course the quote, he believed that it wasn't necessarily going to come true. It was something along the lines of, your friend is most likely going to lose his life, but only you could actually save him. She didn't necessarily say it that blatant, but you pretty much understood it from that. And that right there 100% came to be. Konohamaru himself was about to die, and Mugino risked his life to save Konohamaru's life. Now, why would he do such a thing? I have absolutely no idea. Maybe, matter of fact, now I could kind of understand, just because of the sheer fact that Konohamaru's grandfather actually saved Mugino. Now, I'm not gonna lie, before this episode, I had absolutely no idea why Mugino would do such a thing, just because of the sheer fact that they're both in the same particular situation, and it seemed like they both have a lot of people that they do care for. Now, I pretty much understand it. Like, now, another big thing that this actually did give some background to is, of course, Naruto getting his arm. Now, I talked about this in most of all the videos, how I'm super excited to see Naruto actually spar against Boruto, but one of the biggest scenes in that that particular sparring scene is the fact that Naruto uses another prosthetic arm. This arm right here, the only thing that we did see in the Boruto manga is the fact that this arm is actually capable of absorbing chakra. Now we already understand Naruto is extremely overpowered, but now you're adding Rinnegan abilities to Naruto. That right there just does not seem fair. Now when talking about Naruto's fights later on in the Boruto manga, I don't think he has on this arm just because of the sheer fact that the arm itself isn't necessarily 100% complete. So I think because of that, Naruto isn't 100% using it. But regardless, this does actually give some background to why Naruto is actually using a scientific technology arm in the spar versus Boruto. Now also they do talk about Katasuke's genjutsu. The people who do read the Boruto manga understand that it was either, matter of fact, at this particular point we have absolutely no idea. In the Boruto manga, it was actually said that I'll actually put Katasuke under a genjutsu, but in the Boruto manga, I'm pretty sure we clearly seen Kachin Koji put Katasuke under a genjutsu. So regardless, this episode was definitely decent. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. Let me know what you guys think about this episode in the comment section below. As I said, I liked it. I think it was decent. Definitely did give us a lot of background on Mugino, of course, his character overall. The Boruto writers are doing what they should have been doing from the beginning, and of course giving us a lot more tragic death, unfortunately. And of course they're just building up the character of Mugino right now to rip our hearts out in the future. So of course don't get too attached to Mugino. Please don't do that. But it's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.